Hello and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh and in this video we shall discuss the current affairs and guess that for today 24th of March 2022. Let me welcome all of you participants. Very good participation here. Amlan, Netra, Bhabani, Kriti, Hima, Kim, Pooja, all of you welcome to the current affairs session. And then we have Hibu here today. Thank you for attempting this, Hibu. Good one. Pooja and Ashish joining in little late, no worries. Who else? Okay, these many people answering the questions here. Welcome back, all of you. Let's begin this discussion with the appreciation for all the people who have written answers. Thank you and good work. All right, so what do we have in today's discussion are three updates. One on India's export. What has been the reason for rise in export? We will understand here what is the export basket of India and what has been the beneficial factor. That is the update. The second one is on recycling heat generated by data centers, new innovation underway in European countries. And the third one is some foreign institutions which are trying to set up campuses in India. What are the issues involved and what are the advantages for the country? This day in history dedicated to World Tuberculosis Day. Featured news on India and the Arctic. India lately unveiled its Arctic policy, and interestingly, Russia is the chair for the Arctic Council. So in this feature news, we will understand what is India's interest in Arctic region, what Arctic region has to offer, what are the challenges for India, and what are the challenges for all the other countries. What is the kind of treaty that happens in Arctic? What is the difference between Arctic and Antarctic treaties? And what was the question asked in the UPSC main examination this time? We will also understand that. This is in the featured news section today in the other video. Next video. Image of the day of vegetable waste which is being converted to electricity in Hyderabad. So good case study for you people. Terms and concepts, Aqua MAP from IIT Madras, BBNJ, a failed treaty, wings India in Hyderabad, and Abel prize from Finland. All right, Finland or no, Norway. Editorials, three editorials. One is fighting tuberculosis. The second one is on India's growth prospects, and the third one on the rise of China. Three editorials to discuss today, and the case study is on Baal Sansad from Uttar Pradesh. Let's begin this discussion. All right. Hi Niranjan, Gopal, good evening to you. Hi Tiyasha, good evening. Good evening to all of you. Do not fail to write answers. This is what I want to say. Attempting is a very good feeling in itself, and it also rejuvenates what we know. Right, so it reasserts what we know, and then it also helps us to understand the other's perspective. Right, so mind opens while we think. Mind doesn't open while we are receiving information. It opens while we start thinking about it, and that is your part of the work. Why we do it together is because this is how you stick to it. You do it, but when we do it alone, it is a little tougher, right? So that's why I insist you people all write together. Right, if you're investing time, invest a little more here. Right, we'll try to curtail it and even make it more dense, lesser time for each questions. Hi Abhinav, good evening. Let's begin. The first update is on Indian exports, which have received a new high now. All right, and before we begin the descriptive understanding of this, let me quickly look at what have you people written about the exports. All right, so you say about the export. Semiconductors, pharmaceutical, service sector, IT industry, agro-based sector, these are the potential areas of export. All right, circular economy. All right, what else have you mentioned here? Vaccines, generic medicines, wheat, refined petroleum products, traditional handlooms. All right, solar cell, aluminium, tea and coffee, state specific products, for example GI products. All right, and the reasons for the rise, what you people have written, I am just reading out all that right now. Traditional services like Ayurveda, renewable energy installations, defense exports, APIs, vaccine, fab chip, textiles. Okay, taking a note. And what are the reasons for rise? Some of you have written Atmanirbhar Bharat, reluctance in ease of doing business has reduced, quick environmental clearances, shift of many MNCs in India, government subsidy in terms of tax, electricity. See, points are good. All I'm saying is, can you please give me an example of many MNCs shifting into India? So give the example of Lockheed Martin, Boeing, no, right? They are setting up factories in India or partnering with India, right? Russia partnering with India, Israel partnering with India, and Japan partnering with India and starting industries in India. Then when you speak of quick environmental clearances, talk of central government introducing the scheme where environmental clearances will be rated along with states rating, right? States rating for ease of doing business will be assisted if environmental clearances are done fast. Give the example there, right? Petroleum products, gem, jewelry, HEMA, good points, textile, fabrics. Okay, you are mentioning the the ways in which we have increased our export, but what are the reasons? Let's start discussing. Okay, Kriti has written record production, procurement of wheat, rice, good one. 300 million tons of wheat, rice and other cereals, record production in India, absolutely true. Trade barriers have reduced, spike in demand, absolutely. Make in India, governmental policy, defense export. Okay, all right, okay. So let me share what are the other reasons here. Now, before we get into the article, let me show you the image of how the merchandise export happens. 90% of the exports happen through containers, right? Sea containers. And 10% of it happens through air travel, right? And India has achieved the mark of $400 billion of export, merchandise export, right? This export does not include the service export. We are talking of goods exchange, right? So good export $400 billion and goods import almost $600 billion. This is what we have achieved. So trade deficit has still increased. Trade deficit is $200 billion. And India thought that we would achieve it by the end of March, $400 billion, but we have achieved it even before the end of March, right? By the end of March, it could be $410 billion. This is what has been speculated. And Prime Minister has also accoladed the farmers, MSMEs, smaller industry people that they have helped achieve this. See, MSMEs, remember that formula 10, 30 and 50? I will keep reminding 10, 30, 50. 30% of export contribution is through MSMEs, right? 10 crore of people, and what was this? 50, I don't remember then. So this is why he has appreciated the MSMEs. So what are the important objectives of this particular, not the objectives, but what are the reasons for why the trade has increased? Some specific articles export increased. So what are those articles? First, now we are talking of merchandise items only. So engineering products, apparels and garments, gems, jewelry and petroleum products, they have accelerated in exports. Along with that, auto components, motor vehicles, cereal preparation, buffalo meat, rice, carpet, processed food, juice, pent up global demand for engineering goods, electronic goods, processed petroleum. Do you know the level of export rise in engineering goods, electronic goods and processed petroleum? This has increased around 50 to 100%. The demand has increased from India to the tune of 50% to even 100% at places. This has happened because of quite a few reasons. One reason is alternate supply from different countries away from China. Another reason is Russia-Ukraine crisis, right? And international crisis happening everywhere. Third important reason, which has been the key factor, is COVID disruptions, which have caused countries to source from different places. And India is one open country where you mentioned wheat and rice. A lot of countries have taken in India's supplies and stored at their own locations. African countries, European countries. And India's own supply and store supply at Food Corporation of India has decreased because of this. But no worries. These are only emergency supplies for us. In the next season cycle, we will be able to store again, right? So this is how India's storage has declined, but then India has been able to export quite a few articles, merchandise items. Now, one important, so that is the reason we see cereal preparations, juice, processed fruits, see rice, buffalo meat. This is the reason we have seen high exports in these food and food processing items. Carpets, do you remember the GI tagging of carpets from Kashmir? GI tag carpets, and they were notified with the certain electronic indicators, right? So these are the reasons because of which India's export have increased around the world market, right? Engineering goods, electronic goods and processed petroleum. One point that you people have missed, that all of you have missed, is that of economy. Depreciation of rupees. Depreciation of rupee means more competitiveness in Indian export. Indian imports will be costlier and Indian exports will be cheaper. And during these times, when we have seen depreciation of Indian rupee, rising of inflation in the country, extraction of dollars from the global market, this has led to economical exports, cheaper exports, and rise in the cost of imports. When the exports are cheaper, please note this, when the exports are cheaper for us, for the other people to purchase from us, they will tend to purchase from India rather than other countries, rather than China or Vietnam. On the other hand, when the imports become more expensive for us because of depreciating rupee, when the imports become more expensive, then the same item that we import, we will have to import at higher cost. And this is the reason that when we see the graphs that has been in the newspapers all the time, import graphs, yes, no, import graph is not here. The import graph has also risen. It is because the items which we are trading, they are costlier in the global market, and that is why $600 billion of total import by India. This is also a record. $600 billion is a record, and this we have not achieved until now, right? So that is why costlier imports and then higher exports, both of them are happening, right? And a trade deficit has of course widened, so this is not a good sign for the country. All right, so that is another point, right? Exchange rate. All right, pent up global demand, higher global demand, and then supply chain disruptions happening, because see, right now South Korea is going through COVID, China is going through COVID, there are many other places which are going through COVID and there are lockdowns being imposed there. Now those places are not being able to export items. India is able to. India has also vaccinated many people, lesser curbs on COVID, lesser COVID restrictions, opening up of economy again after COVID. So these are the reasons because of which India has been able to supply the world's demands. This is why India's demand has increased. But not that China is not doing well. Today's editorial is only about that. How has China ramped up its manufacturing production and done far better than the world? So not that China is not doing well right now, but right now India's demand have decreased. See, prices of items have increased post-COVID. It is also because of the container crisis. The container crisis happened during COVID times, where container companies, Makes, International, and many other countries by this, of these kinds of the likes, they cartelized, they formed cartels, and in these cartels, they started charging higher rates for exporting items. So there has been a complaint, formal complaint from the government of India at trading organizations to reduce this cartelization. But then, of course, because of COVID, some people are at profit, right? So shipping of merchandise items, this is a good thing that has happened. I would like to show you which are the major destinations where we export and where we import from. Major destinations where we export is Asia. Major destination from where we import also is Asia. Export destinations include China and Middle East. Import destinations also include China and Middle East, right? Largely, all right. And then is Europe, and then is North America, all right. And then very less is Africa and Latin America. See, when I asked you a question, which are the new products and new areas of focus, these are the new areas of focus, right? These were old schemes which are run by the government. Focus area and focus product schemes by the UPA government's old times. So we should start focusing on Africa and Latin America as well. Africa because of increasing population and therefore demand for the future. I was viewing one speech by the Prime Minister in which he was being interviewed by a TV journalist. The TV journalist asked that in these circumstances where India's foreign policy is driven by other countries' interest, America's interest, Russia's interest, is it not that India is under pressure because of these influencers? Global influences, Japan or Australia, UK, Russia, or United Nations or USA. So the Prime Minister responded by saying that it is we who can impose pressure, global pressure, because of the 140 billion population that we have, the kind of demand that we have, the kind of workforce we have, the skilling that we can provide to the whole world. So we can start looking at the challenges or the issues from the perspective of opportunity, right? We train our people and they become the workforce for the whole world. The world does not have population. Elon Musk speaks of it. The world's population growth rate is declining. In fact, the population itself is declining in Europe and Japan. So who provides this workforce? If the world is not happy with China, it's we. And we are the one who will dictate the terms. Nobody will twist our arms, right? So a great perspective there. right? That's how we should also look at whenever an interview or anybody asks us the question, should India be challenged? No, never. Why? We are the ones who will lead these positions, no? So this is how we are leading it right now. We are leading it quietly. We are exporting wheat. No, bhai, sabko hi kha lo. We are exporting it, and we have had record production of wheat and rice, both 100 million tons, both of them, and total production of the food crops more than 300 million tons. Oh, providing food to the whole world despite having low productivity. All right, but then great step. This is how we will step the ladders of success, no, for the whole world. Right, so major export regions. So share of exports and percentage. Asia, 50% of exports of India, and then comes Europe, around 20%. Then comes America, North America, around 20% again, and then other places. Right, and what are the exporting products? See, we have diversified our exports a lot. Earlier, around 20% of the exports would be petroleum products itself, and now we have diversified into other items also. So now export percentage of petroleum is dropped to only 14%. Export percentage, right? In the 1 decade, in 1 decade, export, we largely import around $100 billion of petroleum product and export a substantial amount again after processing it, right? So petroleum products, pearl, precious, semi-precious stones, drug formulations, gold, precious metals, iron and steel, electric machinery, organic chemicals, motor vehicles, marine products. This is what we export. Now, please remember, when I speak of these entities, do remember that particular part of economy that we spoke of. India majorly exports raw materials, and what we import is the processed or value-added products, right? Or the capital goods. This is where India needs to develop a capacity where we process our raw materials and we export what is the finalized product, no? So that countries become actually dependent on those products which value in the economy, value addition. All right. So this is where India can reduce that trade gap, right? Trade gap, merchandise trade gap, 600 minus 400, $200 billion trade gap, right? We balance this kind of trade gap with the help of exporting of more services, right? More services. So this is where the current account balance, that plays a major role. But current account balance also will expand this year because of increased prices of petroleum products. All right. So this is the update. First update is right here. All right. And this is where we see the rising trade deficit. Have a look. $162 billion and $154 billion, and this will rise to around $200 billion. All right. Merchandise exports by the country. Okay. Exports have risen. Phenomenal growth. Engineering goods, 50% rise in exports. Electronic goods, 42%. Gems and jewelry, 57%. Petroleum product export grew 147%, driven by steady crude oil prices. All right. Key export partners. Okay. Thank you for mentioning this, Thibu. UAE, key trading partner, and USA. Good one. All right. So this is the update. And what is it going to help India in? When India inks or has its pacts with other countries for trade negotiations, India will use this. Right, increased trading items, more dependency of the foreign nations on India, and India will say, let's now conclude the FTA, right? So Atmanirbhar Bharat, all those things, good enough. Fortifies India's efforts, and thank you everybody. Snapshot 2, recycling the heat generated by data centers. All right. See, world around, I'm showing you a couple of images here. Facebook data centers, mostly in America, and quite a few in Europe, right? Colder regions of Europe, right? So we see in Sweden, we see this in UK and Iceland, right? And then this is, I think this is Amazon's company's data centers, right? These are the places where trillions and trillions of gigabytes of data are stored in hard disks, and these places require immense amount of energy for them to be stored. Have a look. This is how data center the whole system setup looks like. This is a room where people are able to access the hard disks with the help of a moving lift. Yeah, they are able to access, and these are the bigger rooms in which these are placed. Now this is where we required huge amount of power to be able to supply electricity, maintaining data here. Not only the supply of power, it also leads to immense generation of heat at these places, leading to the place getting heated between 29 degree to 45 degrees Celsius. 29 to 45 degrees Celsius. Imagine this. And this is the reason that many of the data centers are created in colder areas. Because of the climate impact, the heat generated, the heat which is dissipated is not high. Even in case of that, even in case done in that manner, the heat generated is still high to this tune. And this is where countries have started to think how they can utilize this heat. In winters, countries can utilize this heat. How can they utilize this heat? They can channelize this heat through district heating centers. Now, many of the, now those are developed countries that we are speaking of. India does not have a provision for district heating, but many countries, Russia, China, many countries in Europe, they have provisions for district heating, right? So the whole district is heated with the help of fuel supply or supply of heat, right? Just like centralized cooling is there, centralized heating is there, the whole district heating plan is also there. And this is where European countries have said we will like to utilize heating these places through the heat generated at data centers. And right now, more than 75% of the heat of all this heat is dissipated in the environment. It also causes global warming, right? So this is where they want to channelize this energy. All right, many of the data centers that exist now, this is the these are the data mining centers. These are the mining centers, crypto mining centers. Many of them located in USA, quite a few of them located in China, and then many of them again located in the colder region of Europe. See, so colder region of Europe will be able to utilize this. Countries like companies like Amazon, companies like Facebook, Apple, right? All of them have, and IBM, all of them have initiated these projects in Europe where they want the heat which has been generated at these data centers, they can be utilized to pass on the heat in the districts of these places, right? See, after the crackdown in China, there was a crackdown in China a few months back on crypto mining in China itself. So after that crackdown, many of the companies, they shifted. This is the crypto mining map, crypto mining, where all crypto mining happens. So majorly in USA, and then in Russia, colder economies, right? We see the colder economies, Canada, right? These are the places where crypto mining happens. So these are the places where we can also have these kind of setups. See, in the last year, when there was an energy crisis between, and Europe was accusing Russia of this crisis. If you remember, we had discussed this. They were accusing Russia of increasing the prices of the gases, and these gases would be used to warm up the European homes. So now you can very well relate that Europe can sustainably heat their own places as well. All right. On a global level, data centers consume around 200 terawatt hour of electricity. More than 1% of world's total electricity is consumed by data centers only. More than 1%. And this is right now 1%, but then for a country like Ireland, this could be 30% of the total energy, total electricity, because of the availability of data centers there, right? So this is a part of the news itself. It says, I've not included, yes, Ireland's energy regulator says data centers could almost use 30% of country's electricity by 2027, right? Not only that, if you see, 75% of the heat goes to waste. The heating happens to the tune of 29 to 45 degrees Celsius. So it also contributes to greenhouse gases, global warming, right? So this is the reason that a circular economy is getting created here. Microsoft, Facebook, Apple, IBM, all of them are participating here. District heating is popular in Nordic and Baltic countries, right? In Russia, China, all of these countries. All right, this is the update. This is a total of about 60% of area's heating will be generated by climate-friendly waste heat. This is the waste heat that we are speaking of. 60% of the area heating will be done through these entities. So this is a more sustainable way of advancement of technology and helping the climate as well. All right, this is the second update. You've explained all this here, and this kind of heating is far more efficient than the traditional mode of heating, because that would utilize more gases, more of conventional energy, more of warming, and this is more efficient as well, right? So right now Finland and Kaspersky, they are associated with each other to provide this kind of services in Helsinki. And what else? Yes, Kaspersky. I remember Kaspersky has also partnered with India. If you remember the partnership, what is that about? That partnership is about Kaspersky's partnership in India is about cyber swachhta. Cyber swachhta. So cyber cleanliness. They have initiated an app with the help of which all the devices, computer devices, digital devices, phones, they can be cleaned up online and all the malwares will be removed. So Kaspersky doing quite a beautiful job here. Right? Okay. So moving ahead to the third update, foreign institutions, campuses in India. Now lately French and Italian company, institutes that have said they want to install or initiate their institutions in India, right? So Italy has said that they want to have a designing, some fashion designing institute in the country, right? And what is the need? They have shown interest. In fact, the finance minister had also said that they will have some of the international teaching institution in Gift City in Ahmedabad also. So what is the reason for that? See, one of the reasons is this. I was looking up in one of the news where it mentioned very clearly that international outlook of our institutions is of prime importance when our education institutions are getting rated, right, internationally. So right now what we stand is 2 institutions in the top 100, only 2, IIT Mumbai, IIT Chennai, or IIT Delhi, or IISc Bengaluru. All of these are the ones who are topping in the top 100 institutions globally. Why not more than this? Why China has a greater number here? Why our developed countries are the ones which are participating more in the top 100 institutions? One of the major reasons given was the international outlook. The international outlook, that means, now this is Times higher ratings, Times ratings for higher education. So they have allotted 7.5% to international outlook, right? How people view Indian educational institutes. India does not receive rank here, and not only here, this also stimulates lesser ranking at other places. For example, if international outlook is not good, many researchers would not come here. So research citations, research publications, the number of journals in which publications happen, all that will reduce. If international outlook is not good, then the teaching quality will not be good. The international reputed faculty, they will not come to India. Student exchange programs will not happen. So you see, international outlook is a major reason because of which the Indian institutes are not getting recognition internationally, right? And then it does not lead to many other things related to industry and India's progress development. We have studied innumerable times how scientific advancement and technological advancement is the key to India's economic success. This is what other countries have also done. India needs to do this. So international outlook also needs to change about this, right? Maybe we are doing good, but international outlook is important. And one way it can change is when the organizations from abroad, they set up their institutes in India. So the government body, one of the government bodies, it conducted a research amongst around 11-12 universities around the whole world and around 40 colleges. And only 8 of them were ready to set up their institutes in India. They were not ready to set up institutes. And a couple of reasons that they gave was, one reason being, India has a plan of inclusive education. And these countries run off on capital, right? So what they do is that they provide superior quality of education, superior grade of teaching faculties, superior grade of technological upgradations there. But this requires finances. And these finances are not being able to provide by Indian government, or Indian government might restrict it, because of which they feel further restrained, because they will not be able to create that kind of value, capital for themselves, profit for themselves. This is one thing. And the second reason is government clearances. They have clearly said these are the reasons because of which we are not happy in setting up institutes in the country, in India. So this is clear. But then even then, 2 institutes, French and Italian, they have shown interest. This is what has been said by the Minister of Education, dependent Minister of State for Education. All right. French and Italian. All right. All right. So this is the update. All that same thing that I've spoken of written there. Okay. What have you written here? Romani says export target of 400 billion already achieved, sir. Yeah, it has been achieved absolutely, but then at what cost? Our imports have also risen. No, it is not only that we have exported more items, it is also that exports have become cheaper because of depreciation of rupees. That is economy's perspective, and quite a few of you have written that economy is your weak point. My dear friends, economy's question in pre-exam is conceptual. It is not on current, at least that's what is happening these days. So when it is conceptual, last 3-4 years of questions, if you see, do you face challenge there as well? Quite a few have written have written they face challenge. Do you face challenge in those questions also? Please respond. All right. MSME is 50% to GDP. Okay, yes, 45 to 50% of GDP contribution. Yes. Focus area, Pooja. Focus area means India has had a look east policy, a look west policy, but this is around the countries which are only nearby. Focus east, East Asia. Focus west is the west of Asia. But then what about those places which we have ignored for a long time? Africa. So focus area product. Focus. So two schemes for this. What initiated by the last government. Focus on product. Focus area scheme and focus product scheme. So their focus was to increase trade with Latin America and increase trade with Africa. This is what is focus area. %30 of GDP and 45 to 50% of exports. Okay, yes, thank you. Kriti says, sir, but if India would be importing petroleum at discount from Russia, would it still greatly harm local prices and industries? No, it would not. If we are getting subsidized petroleum from any country and petroleum and gases as well, it would be great for India. It would be great. And if it is done in local currency, that would be even great, because that would not harm India's currency exchange rate. Currency exchange rate is largely driven by dollar. No, more than 50% of the total trading bills, that means the currency, that is dollar in the market, dollar only, more than 50% in the international market. So this is the one which largely determines the balance of currencies in the international market. And if we are not trading in dollars, if we are trading in rubles, or if we are trading in Indian currency, rupees, then it does not affect the rupee exchange rate in international market as much if we are trading in dollars, right? So these are advantages of trading with Russia. This is where India can dictate terms with countries, right? When India is importing so many defense articles, America is fighting over exporting defense articles to India, right? When all the countries are dependent on India in some or the other way, then India can fight it very well. When we have got 30% of the Silicon Valley entrepreneurs, IT people are from India, when we've got doctors, scientists, people working in NASA and Microsoft, all from India, can we not have that arm twisting power? We do have it. China has it already, but China does not use that. China uses its export potential to these countries. India can use its human resources potential, right? So India will have that advantage if it trades with Russia as much, right? It will have, definitely. So Amlan says the trading route. See, right now, good point raised. Right now, most of the countries which trade in petroleum products, they trade through pipelines. Europe, Russia, China. And that is the reason that India faces a challenge here. India imports all the petroleum products through containers, ship containers, right? So they are oil containers. They are special ships which are made for oil tankers only made, right? So this is how we import it, not through gas pipelines. But then India has plans to have gas pipelines with Russia as well. Plans. Yes, Vajra scheme to attract foreign academicians to India as visiting faculty. Yes, but then largely a mixed result only. It was an initiation where foreign faculty, they could come to India, but then not greatly appreciated. So Niranjan says it may increase the value of rupee in case of traction of rupee ruble. It totally depends if it will increase the value of rupee or decrease the value of rupee. It totally depends on the total trade between both the countries. If India's import is more, if India is importing more, then India will have more of expenditure of that also depends on the currency in which trading is happening, right? Export import usually happens in dollars. So if Russia and India say they will conduct this kind of trade in rubles, then ruble will determine. Otherwise, rupee, if rupee is the one in which they will trade, then rupee will determine. See, if rupee is getting spent, then rupees is going to get appreciated. Very simple. When rubles is going to get spent, rupee will depreciate. This is the basic logic. Okay. One more thing that had come to my mind right now was, okay, forgotten. Sir, when it is about depreciation, we have to sell products in loss. We may bring dollars, but according to product, isn't it a loss? No, it is not a loss. Yeah, I also had this doubt that if we are, no, it is not a loss to us. The internal economy is different than the external trade. In India, the economy is not getting impacted. What we are producing, the quality of items, the cost of item, the cost of raw materials, it is all the same. But in international market, the exchange rate of Indian currency, it gets depreciated. Nothing happens to the internal trade. Just that since exchange rate is such that India's rupee gets depreciated, the competitiveness of Indian goods, that increases in market. Why? Because in the same amount, in $1 itself, now more of Indian products can be purchased, right? If earlier in $1 I could purchase 75 rupees of products, now I will be able to purchase 77 and 78 rupees of products in $1 itself. That is the only difference. But it doesn't mean that Indian products, it will become, as you mentioned, it will become poorer in the country. It is not so. It is not a loss. And then, yes, that was my point. This is where China used to artificially depreciate its currency to be able to become an export hub. And when WTO recognized this, that this artificial depreciation of currency is happening in China in the last 20 years, this is when China recognized and said, yes, we will not do this anymore. See, China's economy is largely internationally driven, right? It depreciates its currency artificially. It has been doing it so that it can export more items, right? But then now China has said we will become more domestic oriented. We'll study that in the editorial today. So why can't we have a fixed exchange rate like China does? No, this is not acceptable to WTO. They cannot be a fixed exchange rate. It has to be market determined. That's the reason, Amlan. Okay, moving ahead to this day in history. I like this discussion. Very good, each of you here. This day in history dedicated to World Tuberculosis Day. See, tuberculosis is, I had watched one of the Satyamev Jayate programs. There it was mentioned clearly. It is like one of the time bombs ticking. Because in a closed atmosphere setup, right, where there are slums, where there are lakhs of people living in a closed area. There are slums where, see, at an average 11% of slums exist in India's cities. And there are places where 1/4 and 1/3 of the city itself can come in slums largely, right? 1/3 of the whole city. And people live in close-knitted families. They are physically very, very proximate. There's less space for one person to live in. And the houses are also located at very, very close distances. This allows lesser space, lesser breathing space. And this tuberculosis bacteria, which is supposed to have existed for millions of years right now, this bacteria can spread very easily amongst people. And to spread awareness, today has been celebrated as World Tuberculosis Day. India also runs a program called as the DOTS program. Do you know the full form of it? If you do, please type the name of the full form of this scheme. DOTS program. All right. So deadly disease tuberculosis. Right now not in focus because COVID has been in focus. And though number of reported TB cases have decreased, the signal is very much simple and straight. It is not because TB has decreased its presence in the country. It is because it has not been noted down by the health authorities. And when it has not been noted down, the people cannot be segregated and they will further spread. So taking time bomb for the country. Feature news for the day is on India and the Arctic. We will decipher this complete topic, the Arctic region, the countries, participants, the Arctic policy in general, and India's Arctic policy, which has now been released. What is India's interest? What are the challenges? All of it in the feature news today. All right. Image of the day from Hyderabad, Bovenpalli, Hyderabad. You see, this is the vegetable waste which gets generated in this area, municipal area, and this waste can later be utilized to create energy, right? To create manure, fertilizer, and this has been done so. This has been done so already, and it is already being able to provide energy to light, street lights, stalls, power generation to many other places. So 30 kg of LPG is generated daily with the help of this. Not only generation of LPG, but what about the charred vegetable products being utilized as organic waste, right? So this is a great facility in Bovenpalli in Hyderabad. All right. Aqua MAP. Aqua MAP, World Water Day, just 2 days back, and IIT Madras has recently launched this Aqua MAP. The Aqua MAP of the water requirement of various places, how it can be generated, right? What is the shortage? How to efficiently use water at places? How do you use this? How do you use this Aqua MAP? It can be used as a case study, as an example, right? It is a new interdisciplinary water management and policy center that aims to create awareness and implement sustainable solutions to impact water management around the whole country, right? Activities will include field level implementation of the practices, identify challenges of wastewater management and understand the water utility, map it, and be able to create systems where water can be utilized sustainably. All right. So people, potable water, urban deluge, urban floods, right? Excessive water flow to the seas, water drainage to water systems, right? And this is a greener system. All of them will be studied with the help of Aqua MAP, initiated by IIT Madras. Okay, thank you. Directly observed treatment, not therapy, treatment, short course. Now, in this particular TB scheme, the medication is not given to the individual. The person has to come to the health center and they have to, that is the reason that it's called as, oh, is it therapy? I think it's treatment. Please check once. Maybe I'm wrong. Any of us could be wrong here. Anyhow, getting back. So the reason it is called as DOTS is because people have to be administered the dosage in front of the hospital staff, the hospital administration. It is primarily because TB is one of the diseases which has caused multiple, if you remember, MDR, XDR, disease resistance, multiple disease resistance, extremely drug resistance. So tuberculosis is one of the diseases where the administration of drug, it has to happen at a certain time at a particular dosage itself. And this is also, it happens through methodologies like try and test. Like, so if it works, see, first of all, the dosage is given, right? If the dosage is given, but the disease does not go away from that human being, then higher doses are given. If that also does not happen, then extremely high doses are also given to that particular person. And all of them have to be administered through medical staff, right? In case it does not work with the individual, it aggravates the situation, then the person has to also get admitted in the hospital, right? So the point being that if it is not administered by the medical authorities, and the person forgets to take that medication, in that case, it is a challenge for health authorities. It is a challenge for that individual. It can be a question of life and death also for that particular person. So that is why administered directly by the hospital authorities. DOTS. It's treatment, therapy. Okay. We will understand what it is. Directly observable. That is the word. BBNJ, Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction Ocean Treaty. So this BBNJ treaty between the countries was initiated so that those areas which do not come under the exclusive economic zone or the country's national zone, those areas should have a treaty, biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction treaty. And the treaty has right now failed because some of the countries lobbied saying that even when you want to administer the biodiversity beyond the country's jurisdiction, exclude certain species, like for example, fishes to be excluded. Some of the countries requested, developed countries requested. So these kind of requests, biodiversity conservation, and then you want to preserve your economy. So because of all this, the treaty has right now failed, right? Procrastinated on their talks of ocean protection. Ocean accounts for 90% of global trade, provides food and job to people because of the marine products. It regulates the global climate, all right, and carbon dioxide regulation. It absorbs the carbon dioxide, sequestration of carbon dioxide happens, right? It is also called as Treaty of the High Seas. Could not charter an agreement by itself. Wings India 2022. Hyderabad is holding Asia's largest civil aviation convention in Hyderabad, and this is where they are showcasing some of the aircrafts India has. Sarang will also be demonstrating there. So through this, India is trying to create more airline business in the country. The name is Wings India 2022, Asia's largest civil aviation event. All right. Oh, this reminds me of the crash that happened in China. So one highlighting factor, the black box has been discovered. They will find out what are the reasons for the crash. But then the aircraft, it took a nosedive. It took a nosedive of 6 kilometers, and the aircraft, it crash landed within 1 minute. Is it possible? I actually calculated, and this is possible. So a little of science here, but then you should be aware of all this. Why? Is because simple, distance is equal to ut plus half at square. Have you studied this? If initial velocity has been considered, if we assume it to be 0, half acceleration 10 into time square, and distance was 6 kilometers, 6,000 meters, right? Divided by 10 into 2, 600, 1200. 1200 under root. 1200 under root should come to around 30 to 40, maybe 35, around 35. So 35 seconds is what it took to nose down and nose dive to 0 kilometers from 6 kilometers height. This is the calculation for the Chinese aircraft, right? And after that, then an investigation has also been initiated with the help of Chinese authorities, Boeing, all of them, right? Similar kind of accidents happen when paratroopers they jump from the aircrafts. So if they jump from helicopters, they would jump from around 5,000 meters, and if they 5,000 meters is quite a bit, 5,000 feet, right? Or maybe 2 to 3 kilometers helicopters, and if they jump from a plane, they could be from 5 kilometers height, so maybe 15,000 feet height, right? Even when you calculate all this, when you calculate from these heights as well, it takes hardly say 10 to 15 to 20 seconds for the person to dive, and if the parachute doesn't open, then they would thud on the ground, and that is the reason that two parachutes are given. One is the primary and the second one is secondary. Okay, Abel Prize for 2022 has been given to American mathematician Sullivan for topology. Abel Prize is given to those people who have done excellent in the field of mathematics, and given by the King of Norway. Abel Prize, respecting the mathematician Abel from Norway itself. And this gentleman has been given, the American gentleman has been given the prize because they have done something wonderful in the field of topology. Topology, what is topology? Field of mathematics which talks about properties not changing even when the substance is deformed. When the substance is deformed, the shape is twisted or it is broken into pieces, the property does not change, right? This is what is topology. This example I have not been able to understand. If you are able to understand this example, please explain to me as well. I tried looking of some examples of topology. I could not find something here, but if you can help me with this, it would be great for everybody. Topology example. This is right from the Hindu. All right. Niksha system for tuberculosis. All right. Okay, so people say it is therapy. Okay, good enough. Tiasha, my sister is suffering from tuberculosis. Okay, Tiasha. She developed a very severe and rare drug reaction and was hospitalized. Okay. See, speedy recovery to her, absolutely. And this is why this has happened to quite a few people. When tuberculosis dosage or whatever has to be administered, it is not given in time, or the intensity of medication dosage which has to be given, that is not proper, and the potency is also not checked, right? We do not know if the person has got extremely drug resistant, the level of TB is extremely drug resistant, or it is multi drug resistant, or it is not at all drug resistant. Because if the person is more receptive, then the dosage of the medication or the potency of medication or the timing will be different. And this is how trial and testing is done. It is actually such that people are not very well aware, and trial and testing is done from the lower potency, from the lower dosage, and then onwards, if it doesn't work, then higher dosage is given, right? So this is how trial and testing also creates a lot of chaos with people. Hope speedy recovery for your sister Tiasha. All right. Okay. Fighting TB with lessons learned from COVID. See, the editorial says that COVID and TB are very much similar. And when we have recovered such well from a situation like COVID, why cannot we recover from TB also? We can do that, right? So right now, the kind of drug administration for TB that has been used in COVID, but then TB does not have these kind of drugs for itself, right? So, and also these days we have not found enough number of TB cases in the country which were previously being found. The reason is not that TB has decreased in India, it is just that people are not reporting these cases. The survey has not happened in the best manner because we have diverted all our resources towards COVID, right? So detection has dropped, and this is not a very good sign for the country, right? Learning the lessons from COVID, right? Increasing the outreach with the people. This is what is required. Speedy development of vaccines, triage facility, this is triad, but triage facility. You know what is triage? Triage is those areas where people go for preliminary check, right? So preliminary check. This is where triage facility increasing may cause lesser number of TB spread in people, right? Aggressively scaling up the test for people with TB, right? So India needs to triple the funding, not just for TB, but health, nutrition and preventive services. Please point out that fact that we are using only a certain percentage of GDP in health through public spendings, and it needs to increase. Global uncertainties, India's growth prospects. The editorial clearly points about the fact that our current account deficits are going to go high. The inflation rate in the country is going to go high. This is going to impact the growth also, right? So the external factors are the causative factors. So for example, the crude oil prices, the real GDP growth rate, inflation. If the inflation in the country is 6%, is it true? It is 6%, right? CPI is 6%. And if the growth rate of the country is 8%, then where are we? We are just at 2% of effective growth rate. So we need to have higher growth rate and lesser inflation, but that is not happening in the country. One of the reasons is global crude prices, right? Supply demand mismatch. This is another factor. So real GDP growth rate, this is one. Current account balance, as I mentioned, it is widening because we are importing more because of the depreciation in rupee. The SWIFT transactions, many of the transactions getting refused because of Russia getting thrown out of the SWIFT transactions. See, remember one thing about Russia, that is that the investment between both the countries is to the tune of $30 billion investment, but the trade is less between these two countries. This investment increase is going to only help India, because through this investment, India is going to help itself in multiple ways: scientific, technological developments, more imports, partnering with a strategic ally. On the other hand, the trade is less between these two countries. One of the reasons mentioned is good one, Amlan, that is that it is not viable to get the oil from Russia. Tracking the persistent growth of China. This editorial is on Chinese growth, right? It was envisaged, it was thought that post-COVID, the exports from China will decrease and exports from all around will increase. India is also showing signs of rise of export, that we agree with. But China has shown accelerated signs of exports. Accelerated signs. Why is it so? The editorial clearly says it is because of China's policy. China has initiated the policy of what's the word? Yes, dual circulation. So earlier China was encouraging its manufacturing industry only to export, as I had mentioned, right? And as you people had rightly pointed out, that China used to suppress artificially its currency, right? Yuan. But right now China's Chinese premier have said that they are into dual circulation. Two circulations will happen. One is internal and the second one is external circulation. What circulation? Circulation of goods. So external circulation will only be complementing the domestic demand. And domestic demand, domestic supply will only increase the economic development, the social development of the country, right? Right now, Chinese economy has been export oriented. India's economy is more towards importing and also self-sustained. What we import is largely petroleum for requirement, but otherwise self-sustaining economy. Tata Motors, Mahindra, these are the companies which are thriving in India. Not that just these are the companies, but other companies as well. Maruti, Indian company. So you look at various ways in which you understand how India is a self-sustained economy, but Chinese economy is more dependent on exports. And now China has said that they will diversify. They have already started to diversify into dual economy, dual circulation. So import demand will also get generated, which will spur India's manufacturing growth. This is one of the reasons. We had thought that because of some geopolitical tensions, because of post-COVID disruptions, because of trade wars between the country, increased enmity with China, the countries will start to utilize other countries' resources. But China's export have still increased. Another reason is automation and artificial intelligence usage, not only in startups, but the mature companies as well. Both of them have started to automate the processes, and this has decreased the cost of functioning in China. So if we are speaking of, if you remember, if we have spoken about the factors of production, for example, land, labor, entrepreneurship, capital. So all of them get adjusted when we start using automation or artificial intelligence. We do not need the labor in that quantity. Possibly we might need those areas as well, which are, it won't be area dependent, where there is labor market. We can install these facilities far away from those places. So this is what the editorial says. Artificial intelligence, automation has only enabled China garnering a huge percentage in global trade. Imagine, I've written this down myself. China accounts for 30% of world's manufacturing, and that is why it is considered as world's factory, and India is considered as world's office. 30% of global manufacturing, and 13% of world's exports, and 18% of world's market capitalization. So 13% of world export only by China. Remember, if you remember that particular image, 25% of global GDP is American. 25% of global GDP is American. 16% of global GDP is Chinese. But in 16% of global GDP, it constitutes 30% of world manufacturing. Can you relate this? China's manufacturing is humongous. This is what editorial points to. Despite the fact that the countries are moving away from China, it is only growing. Very much simple and clear, right? Now, when you compare this editorial with the past editorial of India, what can we learn with China? See, our economy is fine, thriving. The pointer that I mentioned, that $400 billion of export have happened, that should not be taken in exclusion, although all the news articles speak of it, but there is a lopside to it. Our imports are increasing proportionally far more, and this is going to cause multiple problems like inflation, like current account deficit, SWIFT transactions being refused. All those things will happen. Depreciating rupee, all that is the issue. What we can learn from China is this, the end of the editorial. Artificial intelligence, publications, journal citations, advanced technology, skill base, initial mover advantage. This is what we can learn from China. The number and proportion of journals being cited from Chinese articles, they have increased with time. Their scientific base, their technological base has increased. Their investment in research and development is well more than 2% of their GDP. Well more than 2%, so more than 3 times India. And their GDP is also far larger than India is, no? So imagine the kind of investment that they are putting in, and this is very clearly getting reflected in their industrial technology base. So this is what we can learn: having advanced technology, which also helps killing the people, and then also the initial mover advantage. So China will not be competing with any nation; it will always be ahead of the race. That's what it is doing with regular manufacturing industries. So great insight. Thank you, China. Baal Sansad, today's case study. If you like this discussion, share some love through likes, comments, and shares. Okay. So, Kriti says Boeing 737 is notorious. Yes, investigations have been happening around it. Okay. CPI 6.07. Amlan keeping a check of the 2 digits after decimal, after the point as well. All right. Yes, China-US bilateral trade is 600 billion plus, not only 600 billion, 600 billion plus, and quite a bit of trade deficit for USA. They're not happy about it. China and ASEAN trade is 800 billion plus. China and EU trade is 600 billion plus. All of them, all these economies running because of China's trade. Imagine this. कहाँ से आता है इतना सामान चाइना के पास? They trade so much with them. All right, so India is nowhere to the scene. India's total contribution to GDP, world GDP is 2% plus, 2% only. Contribution to international trade, 2%, hardly. Total external trade, internal trade, only hardly 1%. But then look at these economies, 30% of global manufacturing, China. See, start using this. If I'm using this, you got to grow with me, right? Start using this in conversations, start typing it out. Absolutely do that so that it's there in your mouth and you're able to reflect it whenever asked. Baal Sansad, today's case study is on a beautiful initiation of Baal Sansad. Baal Sansad program is the one where students from the schools, and not just grown-up students of class 9, 10th and 12th, these small students, the kindergarten students also, they can participate as a parliament where students become the prime minister and the minister. One minister will be there for hygiene, another there for environmental cleanliness, another there for time management. And this is how the whole ministry gets formed. They get elected and they represent themselves. They become leaders in the school. So this is the Baal Sansad scheme through which children become the leaders of society. The outcome of nurturing a child in the nascent stage gets reflected in overall personality. Outcome of nurturing a child during their youth, during their early children age, it gets reflected in the personality. Baal Sansad is such an initiative, and this is one of the best initiatives which was given appreciation by Niti Aayog as well. All right, children's parliament run by children for the children, and children take part in active school engagements, classroom policies, management, development, improvement, decision making in the school itself. This is where UP got this award, right, where Baal Sansads were formed in various schools. All right, so education means not only the conversion of a small child into a person, but the complete system, body, mind and spirit, all of them in unison with each other and growing together. All right, this is the Baal Sansad case study of the day. Let's quickly move on to the feature news, where we understand what is happening in the feature news for today. And today's feature news is on, yes, India and the Arctic policy. Interesting feature news for today. All right, they have Aladdin ka Jinn. All right, great. We will see you in the feature news where we'll discuss more about the Aladdin ka Jinn that India has in Arctic region. All right, thank you for participation. See you all in the feature discussion. Questions, please put them down. And people who are viewing offline, I would urge you to start answering the questions. It will be a great initiation into answer writing, and you can see yourself improve just like all the other people here are. Thank you.